Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. All right, we're on another episode of the Marvelous team-up with Tad and Graz from the GKBC. Our bi-weekly review of a graphic novel we are reading. And, of course, we are, well, this will be the, third episode already in Harrow County, Omnibus 1. This is by Cullen Bunn and Tyler Crook, of course, published by Dark Horse Comics, and it's a horror comic. If you've been watching the series, you know when we last left off, our heroine, Emmy, had just defeated her, well, defeated isn't a right word, more like survived her sister. Her sister came to visit, and her sister is the evil witch, right? So she must be from the west, right? Or the east, the good witch, the bad witch, the evil sister. Anyways, she survived Cammy. Cammy was pulled back into the earth by the bones of Hester, their mother, who was a bad witch. But anyways, go watch those other episodes if you want to catch up, if you need to catch up. So we are now starting chapter 9. Now, first off, when I first, you can see the cover page. Now, this character here is Cammy's, I don't know, I want to say like familiar, another haint in the county, but it's the actual physical skinless embodiment of this little boy that she carries the skin along with her all the time. The skin talks to her and can tell her things, warn her about things, but there actually is the actual physical haint or being, ghost, whatever these things are, of the little boy. He comes around every once in a while, but we see him right here on the cover of chapter 9 or episode 9. But the first thing that strikes me when I first open it up is, I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of dark. The artwork is totally different, completely different than what we've been reading for the last 8 chapters. It kind of threw me out of it. I'm not going to lie. It took me out of it a little bit cleaner style. Not bad in its own right, but just like, you know, you're reading along, you're involved in this story, you're starting to get, you know, sucked into not only the story, but the artwork. And the artwork I kind of like because it's very atmospheric, and it has helped to perpetuate this kind of backcountry, you know, voodoo, witchcraft kind of story, ghost story, and it works great. And then now all of a sudden I get this clean artwork, and it was just a little jolting for me. I didn't particularly like it in this context. But this story, so just by the cover of number 9, you're going to see that this is kind of, all right, now going to get away from Emmy for a while and tell a story about this little boy and where he came from or what's going on. Kind of like an origin story, but not really. Because we open up with this guy on a train. So he appears to be riding the train. Again, it's very dark. I don't know if you can see here, holding a stick with his bundle of probably possessions on it, like a hobo, right? Like your old-fashioned train jumping hobos. That's what this guy is. But what we learn is that he is another person of power, witch, you know, utilizing witchcraft or however you want to call it. He's a person of power, and he rides the train into Harrow County and meets up with the skinless boy. He knows he's a haint. He talks to him just like these other witches seem to not even care about these strange creatures around. And he starts talking to the boy about knowing who you are. You don't know who you are, do you? You need to name yourself. You need to find your name. So the little boy, or the skinless boy, grabs his skin body and he's talking to this dude. And, even though this dude is telling him, you have to take ownership, you're never going to be really anything until you know your name. They never name this guy. They never say who he is. And somehow the boy goes off to another house in the county, and he sneaks in the house, and there's a little boy sleeping, having dreams, and it's not very clear. Is he going back in time to see who he was when he was a little boy? Is this current? Is this now? It's kind of convoluted. I don't know. I didn't dig it. I started losing a little of my mojo with this story because of the artwork change and because of the story change. We do find out that this little boy's name, at the end, we find out that his name is Caleb. Why? I don't know. Maybe this is foreboding. Maybe this is setting up something. I'm not sure. But it almost seemed to me like, okay, we got this story idea. We got an artist. We got a writer. Let's do it. Dark Horse says, let's do it. And I know this happens. This happens with, you get your TV series, your shows. Starts with a pilot. Oh, the pilot's good. We'll give you a season, see how it goes. And then these shows that we start watching, and then they cancel them in a year or two, we're all pissed off about it. It's almost like that's what happened here. We'll give you an eight issue run. Let's see where you go. If everybody's digging it, then we'll extend it. Well, like, we extend it, and now where are we going with the story? We need some filler. People will talk about, like, records, for instance, albums. All killer, no filler. I'm sorry, but this feels like all filler, no killer. I wasn't digging this section. These 4 chapters kind of knocked me back a notch on my enjoyment of this series, to be honest with you. I can't wait to see what Gross says about it. But just that right off, the art and the story kind of changed. But then we go into chapter 10. Now, chapter 10 and 11 kind of redeem themselves, because in chapter 10 and 11, we start doing the Bernice story. Bernice is cool. Bernice is a little girl, friend of Emmy's. And, where does she fit in this county, in this story? So we go and we see 2 chapters completely devoted to her family, and her neighborhood where she lives, and these snakes, these vipers. A guy gets bit. He starts going a little weird. He starts staring down a road. Bernice is like, what's going on? Something's going on. He goes to Bernice. Bernice, can you help, my grandpa? And Bernice is like, I'm not a witch. Well, you know Emmy. So I just figured, since you are friends with Emmy, you could maybe even contact her and she'll come and help us. And she's like, no, that's not how it works, but she does see the guy. He's staring down this road, and apparently down the road is a cottage, a house where an old lady lives. They call her Old Lady Lovey, and she might have some powers. It's like the old lady on the neighborhood that everyone stays out of her yard. They're afraid of her. There's stories about her being, a witch or something, or the house being haunted or something like that. And so she's concerned about that. And eventually the grandfather does kind of disappear. And the little boy comes in the middle of the night and says, you know, he's gone, Grandpa's gone, Bernice, I need your help. And she's like, okay, let's go. And it's funny because he's scared. She said, hey, you came to me, you want my help, let's go. So as they're going, we do go back a little bit, and Bernice's father tells a story about when he was a kid swimming in this river, and then these water moccasins coming out from a dead tree, but they don't attack him. They go swimming upriver to where this old lady Lovey, she wasn't old then, is calling them to her, and she's just like grabbing them out of the water. Funny though, kind of reminiscent to a scene in Lonesome Dove that I was just reading. That was kind of interesting. A little bit better story. This did captivate me a little bit more, to learn a little bit about Bernice. The art was back to the other artists, I'm sure, and it was more atmospheric. I enjoyed it a lot. Here's the cover page to chapter 11. You see these vipers. And what we learn is, this is old lady Lovey here, and the grandpa did go to her because he had got bitten, and some changes were starting to happen with him. So he goes to her, and she's actually going to help him. But Bernice and this boy don't know. They sneak out there. It's nighttime. They got their lanterns. They're looking through the window, you know, to see what's going on. They think old lady Lovey's like gonna kill this guy. But she's not. She's really there to heal him. But she's got all these vipers, like they're still alive, and they're in these like mason jars all along shelves in the basement. I mean, there's a ton of them. And here, let me show you a picture of that. That's pretty cool, right? So these vipers are, what we learn, what we find out, are evil, and old lady Lovey has trapped them in these jars to help prevent the evil from spreading in the county. So I wrote a song years ago for my band Cerebral Heave, who I may talk about in January. Just to let you know, I wrote an album with this band called Cerebral Heave, and one of the songs I wrote was called The Sentinel. And it's kind of like that. She's kind of like the guard. She's the sentinel between good and evil, and she's guarding these vipers and keeping them trapped. I don't know why she don't just kill them, but anyways, that's her job. And she is a wise woman or a witch, utilizing some type of witchcraft too. So what we're learning is that there are other people, of course, in the world that are witches or can utilize this magic in different ways. An issue happens where as she's trying to help the grandfather, a jar gets broke. A couple jars get broken, and some of the vipers get away. As she's grabbing one, she hears a ruckus outside caused by Bernice and this little boy, and it draws her attention away, and the viper bites her hand. Not good. She's an old lady. It doesn't kill her, but it's not good. And what we find out, though, is that the lady is actually a good person. We go back in time to, we jump to her when she was a younger woman in this cottage, in this house, and it looks like Hester comes up and can somehow probably feel that this lady has the power in her, and sets these vipers loose on people. And the lady at that point becomes the sentinel, is what I'm calling her, old lady Lovey. And so that's where we're at now. This is old. She's now talking to Bernice, and she's really kind of asking Bernice, hey, I can feel some energy in you. I'm getting old. I'm failing. I've just been bitten. I don't think I'm long for this life, but we need a sentinel. We need somebody to keep the evil at bay here. Would you she doesn't say apprentice, but would you kind of be my apprentice? And Bernice says yes. And Bernice is sent off to go track down these 3 snakes that got away. She gets one, she brings it back, she puts it in a jar. It's kind of scary getting that viper. And she comes back and she's like, oh, well, there's 2 more. There's at least 2 more you got to go get. So these 2 chapters were a little bit interesting. They were okay. They didn't just, completely take you out of the story. So I'll give it a pass. I'll say that these 2 chapters saved us from chapter 9 and chapter 12, which I thought had no pertinent value really to progressing the story in any way, or giving us, too much information. I guess a little bit on the skinless boy, but I don't see why yet. Maybe it'll be okay. But then we've got chapter 12 here. And in chapter 12, look at this. The artwork is completely different again. Oh my gosh. And it's paint. I don't like it at all. It took me out of the story again. And this is just a story of Emmy. It looks like she's a little bit older. She's been called out to a house to help rid this house of their haint. Their house has some ghost or something living in it, and it's terrorizing the family. And the family think they're going to have to leave if they don't do something. There's a little girl there with a doll. She kind of talks to the doll. The doll won't go in the house. Emmy goes in the house to try, she thinks it's probably going to be something simple. I'm going to get rid of this haint for them or whatever. And it turns out that the haint is the house. So the house is the evil. And it might be stronger than Emmy. She can't just banish it like she normally does. They have to get out of the house. It becomes really dangerous and starts throwing people around. She does get out, the family out. She does get out, and the house kind of like just like disappears on its own, and kind of yells at her in the process. She doesn't just overpower this haint like she normally does. It's kind of funny because at the end, the little girl was like, where's my doll? My doll's gone. I can't find my doll. And she says, that's okay. You're safe. Emmy's talking to her. And she said, well, I called you. She told me that you would be able to help us, with this evil being, and you didn't really help us. And she's like, yes, but you're safe. And she's like, wait a second. Who told you this? And the little girl says, Cammie told me. All right. So now we've swung it back around right at the end, the very last box of that chapter. All right. So I'm sorry. The different artists, the different artwork, the different, even the style, the bubbles, the words, the printing, everything kind of threw me out of it. I do think that this is just a filler. Very little of it, I think, is going to progress the story. Bernice, okay, yes, I'll give you that. And it is a saving grace of these 4 chapters. Again, I'm curious to see what Graz thinks about it, but it kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you. So I said, well, I got to find out about who these artists are. And of course, I go back to the front of the book, and in the front of the book, it does say, art for issue number 9 by Carla Speed McNeil. So that's not Tyler Crook, of course. And then art for issue 12 by Hannah Lavender. Again, not Tyler Crook. Yeah, I don't know. That kind of, I'm not a big fan of these 4 issues. I hope the rest of, we've got 4 more issues in this omnibus number 1. I hope that doesn't happen again. I hope we start, you know, a new storyline or something that progresses this story further, because I was really digging it until I hit these four. Not a big fan of these four, but it happens. It happens when, you know, like I said, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it wasn't, you know, set out to be. They didn't know it was going to be a hit. They didn't know they were going to end up making a board game out of it. They didn't know it was going to be, you know, 2 omnibuses long of a story. But I'm glad it is. And I'm going to keep reading it. I hope you guys keep watching it. So, as usual, if you find any entertaining value in my videos, please like, please subscribe, please leave me comments, please check out Graz's channel, the GKBC, please like his videos, please subscribe to his channel, please leave comments on his channel. I greatly would appreciate it. And as usual, until next time, peace out.